I know a girl from an island. She stands apart from the crowd. She loves the sea and her people. She makes her whole family proud. Sometimes the world seems against you. The journey may even leave a scar. But scars can heal and reveal just where you are. The people you love will change you. The things you have learned will guide you. And nothing on earth can silence that quiet voice still inside you. And when that voice starts to whisper, Moana, you've come so far. Moana, do you know who you are? Now, this song is from one of my favorite Disney movies of all time. And today's analysis is just all about that. A legacy unbound, Moana's calling beyond. Moana is a girl that had to sail beyond limitations. She created this legacy and she honored her ancestors. She helped to save her people and she was a true hero. And this is so exciting to talk about because I connect so much to this movie. I mean, as you can see, my name on this channel is, my name is Salena, and I call myself Sailor of Psychology. And this archetype of the Voyager that Moana embodies and her ancestors embodies very much symbolizes this channel as well. And so I'm so excited, and not only am I excited to get into the literary analysis and analytical psychology of Moana, understanding those hidden and subconscious symbols. I am also excited about this video because I personally have a very close connection to Moana. And that is because you're probably wondering, what was she holding here? Well, this actually is a table from Fiji that my parents bought because both of my parents were actually born and raised in Fiji. Now, we're not native to Fiji, like we're not native Fijians, but our family, specifically our great-grandparents, my great-grandparents, they migrated all the way from India to Fiji, and they literally voyaged and sailed from India to Fiji. And, you know, we see that Moana is a story. It's a movie all about the culture and mythology of the Polynesian culture of Oceania, right? And Fiji is just in that area. Fiji is Melanesian, and Moana kind of represents both the Polynesian and Melanesian cultures. So it's really exciting for me. I remember when I watched Moana with my mom kept saying, oh my God, we have this in Fiji, we have that in Fiji. And it was so nice because she could relate so much to that, you know, seeing the culture that she was brought up in. And even as an Indian, watching Moana, being able to connect to the folklore from a Hindu background, for example. I mean, I have to do a whole video on that in the future about, you know, Hindu literature, because actually the word itself, the name and the identity of Hindu is very much related to the sea construct as well, which is all about what Moana is about. And I cannot wait. So let's just get into this video, shall we? So I want to start off with the beginning of the movie and how important the beginning of this movie is for understanding the symbolism, because this is where it all begins, right? So we see in the beginning of this movie that the story of the mythology is being told of, you know, what happened 1,000 years ago. And that was told by Gramma Tala, which is Moana's grandmother. And I'm really going to be talking about Moana's grandmother because she is one of the most important symbols of Moana. So she tells this story, right, that we know about the sea goddess. And the sea goddess is sort of like the god creator of the world in this story. She has this heart, and it's called the heart of Tefiti. And what happens is that there's this demigod named Maui. And we know that Maui, later on, we are told that, you know, he says that he was actually a boy, a human, and he was just a baby that was sort of abandoned by his parents somehow. And so the gods turned him into this demigod, right? So what happens is that Te Fiti, we know, is the sea goddess. And Maui steals the heart of Te Fiti, and it seems to be because he wanted to please the humans. He wanted to give human beings the power to create life, just the way that heart encompasses the ability to create life. And so what happens is that Te Fiti, when her heart is stolen, just think about like a human being, when one's heart is, ripped out, what does that do to a human being? It can destroy a person. And so similarly, what happens to this goddess that personifies the sea is that when her heart is ripped out, you see that demon Teka is, manifested. And this demon, I will really be getting into the story, but this demon kind of represents this shadow construct and shadow archetype, which represents the sort of hidden aspects of ourselves, and also the dark sort of hurt aspects of self. They could be very dark, fragile, and corruptive at times as well. That's sort of what the shadow construct represents, those imperfect parts of ourselves that we tend to hide and want to hide from others as well. So that is sort of coming out of this Teka, this demon. And it spread, this darkness, because of the sea losing that heart. This darkness is spread island to island, and finally, after 1,000 years, it comes to Moana's island, Motunui, right? And so what we're seeing, as Gramma Tala says, is that someone needs to restore this heart of Te Fiti. Now, in order to restore it, that's where Moana comes along. And what does Moana represent in this story, right? Because we learn early on that when she's a baby, she is interacting with the sea. And what does the sea represent? Well, the sea actually represents our subconscious mind, the subconscious symbolism. And I'm really going to explain why. So you will notice that Moana and the sea, they have a very special connection. The sea is personified, it's magical, it moves, it interacts with Moana, and it only reveals itself to Moana later in life, as it did when she was a baby, but it sort of protects Moana, and this is really interesting because she has a special connection. And when she's an adult or late teen, Gramma Tala reveals to her that this entire time that what she thought as the sea, that it was a dream that she was interacting with the sea, was in fact truly real. And what they actually don't mention in Moana the movie, but that I want to talk about, is what Moana's name means. Because see, when we understand the meaning of a name, we can really discover the story behind that person or that symbol. And when it comes to Moana, her name means sea. And so it's interesting because the sea is sort of like this representation of who she is, of her own subconscious mind. And, the sea represents that which is that which is below, that which is inside of us, deep. And, on my channel, I talk about, me being the sailor of psychology and you being a fellow sailor. And this sea construct helps us understand and dig really deep into ourselves, dive deep, sail deeply into who we are as people and the unconscious shadows of who we are, those deep oceans. And when we dive into that, we get to know who we truly are, rather than just understanding ourselves shallowly. And you see that in this movie of Moana. She's not able to go into the sea. She's held back from her connection to the sea because there's this fear by everyone on the island, by her father included, and all the chiefs before, that they must stay on the island. They must not voyage like they did before. And so Moana, she learns that her ancestors are voyagers, that they are not meant to stay on this island. And that is a really big struggle for her, because it's not, I wouldn't blame her father or anyone for fearing going beyond the reef, as they are fearing to do so. They fear to go beyond the reef. They fear to go on beyond those limitations, because when they had tried, what happened was that someone did die, and it was Moana's father. Her father's best friend, that died when him and his best friend went beyond the reef. So there is this fear that, okay, why would it be Moana's true calling to go beyond the reef, right? Like, if no one else had done it before, why her? Why her, right? Well, of course, that is what this entire movie is about. This movie is about the fact that, listen, this is her calling. This is her purpose. She is a leader. She is the one that is meant to break this sort of curse, that this darkness of the sea. She is meant to restore the heart of Te Fiti. Now, what they don't know is she's actually meant to be the one to restore the heart of Te Fiti. They think that it's actually Maui, the one who took the heart, that's supposed to restore the heart of Te Fiti. But actually, it's her. And like I said, we can sort of understand that because she represents the sea herself. She represents the sea. And that is why, when she follows the hook, when she goes on that journey in the sea, or you see that, she is constantly being put back on her boat because of the sea being personified. And it's almost like a part of her mind never wants to give up. And I want to talk about the other subconscious symbolisms, because the sea is one of them, but there's more than one. And that is Moana's grandmother, Gramma Tala. Gramma Tala, she, as I said, she told that story, and she is regarded as this sort of crazy woman, like spiritual woo-woo. What does she know? What does this woman know, right? But this woman is smart because she has a special connection with nature, with this higher realm of reality than anyone else does on the island. And Moana does look up to her. And so what does Gramma Tala represent as the archetype? She actually represents the wise woman archetype. She represents this wise woman, and even like a trickster archetype as well, that sort of, tricks Moana into going into the sea, into having this sort of courage to do so. But most of all, she represents the wise woman archetype, the wise old woman who guides Moana, who gives Moana wisdom, provides her reassurance of who she is, tells her to go beyond her limitations, to sail the seas, and to restore the heart of Te Fiti. And this is really important because she also represents, in my opinion, like the super ego as well. Now, the super ego, we learn in psychology. Freud's conceptualized the ego, the id, and superego. And the id is, of course, the impulsive mind. The superego is the rational mind, and the ego balances the both. So in this case, we see that Moana's grandmother, she kind of does represent this rational part of her mind. Also, maybe the id at times that makes her have to impulsively just, go. You got to go do this, right? But I would say more so she does represent this super ego, this wise part of her mind that says you must have courage. You have to do the right thing. Sure, it's hard. No one wants you to sail. You don't even know how to sail. Moana doesn't know how to sail. She doesn't know what she's doing. She is about to discover who she really is, right? And what archetype does Moana represent? Well, there's two that really stands out to me. Now, number one is she represents the Voyager archetype. Now, the Voyager archetype is very relevant to my channel because I talk about myself being the sailor, you guys as a fellow sailor. And so being a sailor or voyager, it represents the explorer archetype. And that is sort of what we see in this movie. It's this journey of exploring one's subconscious mind, exploring one's limits, going beyond one's limits, going beyond the reef, sailing even when one doesn't know how to sail, even when one doesn't really know, exactly where or how one is going to get to where they need to be, but still taking that step into the ocean, putting one's boat in the ocean and saying, I'm going to try, I'm going to learn as I go. And that is so key for this Voyager sailor and explorer archetype. When you don't know, where you're going exactly or how you're going to do it, but you just know you're going to figure it out. It takes a lot of courage to do that. And that is what Moana does. And that is so key. Moana's ancestors are also really important because they represent the Voyager archetype, and bringing out that Voyager archetype in Moana, not being unafraid to sail, being able to continue the legacy of her ancestors and the legacy of herself. That was so important. And, that cultural heritage. Gramma Tala also carries that, right? Because she came back as the stingray to guide Moana, to help give Moana courage. And we really see that symbolism in this movie, the importance of one's family, of one's lineage, of those who came before us and what they leave behind for us to continue to carry on this evolution of self, this continuation of self, this exploration of self and the journey of self that started with our ancestors and continues with us, and this legacy that we leave behind into this world. And that is really powerful. I loved that Disney came in with this symbolic analysis, this symbolic heritage of these very old, very meaningful cultures, right? The Polynesian cultures. And I think as someone that comes from a Indian background, I can absolutely relate to that. And I will be doing a whole video on Hindu literature in the future, and that sea symbolism. I don't want to get into all that into this video, but let me tell you, it's coming, and there's so much to talk about. It's really, really nice to see Disney honoring ancient wisdom, really, because we can learn so much. I think Carl Jung, he even said that the whole of mythology could be taken as a sort of projection of the collective unconscious. And that's really interesting, right? Because yes, this collective unconscious is a big part of the sailor archetype, of the ancestors, of the ancestry, of the lineage of self, that this sailor symbolism was hidden in all of their, subconscious minds and their journeys of rediscovering themselves as part of the sea and as voyagers. It's really interesting, right? Because we see that sea symbolism in Moana, and collectively in that is collective unconscious with the goddess as well of the sea. And Jung even said, I'm really trying to find the quote, "We can keep from a child all knowledge of earlier myths, but we cannot take from him the need for mythology." Carl Jung. And that's what I can say, is that we can learn so much from these stories. And I think that someone who comes from an Indian heritage, I can absolutely relate to that, of learning the wisdom of my ancestors, of all these stories, whether, you want to call it mythology, literature, religion, spirituality, whatever you want to call it, philosophies. Point being is that we can learn so much from these stories and about ourselves. And I do think that they do reveal a lot of the journey of the evolution of our primordial psyches, that which is primordial, that which has existed since the beginning of time. And we know that this world started with the sea, with the water, right? And, water has always been so important for our survival, for who we are. How much of our body is made up of water, and even that pure, that salt water, our eyes, our tears have salt water. It's in our blood, in our sweat. Of course, it's not the exact same formulation, expression as the sea water, but, nonetheless, it's a part of who we are. And until we understand who we are on a deep subconscious level, do we really know who we are? So that's what I love about this. And, just through the lens of the story of this movie of Moana, we can understand the hidden psychology, the deeper truths of ourselves. And that's the goal of this video, really. That was the goal of this video, was to be able to really dive even deeper than what was already there. And there was already so much that was said and shown in the movie, so I was happy to analyze it today. Now, the second archetype that Moana represents is the hero archetype, or the heroine archetype. And this is because we see that she is the one that saves her people. She goes into the realm of demons, or monsters as it's called. She sails when she doesn't know how to sail. She is in this storm. She even has to sail around the demon Teka and sort of get past the demon Teka and realize who the demon of Teka even is. That is a hero who does the right thing despite it being hard, despite risking one's life. Moana is a hero. She risks her life to save her people, to know that they might think she's crazy and she might even die, but she's still going to do it. And so that's what brings me to, before I get into the ending of this movie, I want to talk a little bit about Maui and what Maui represents, because he and Moana can connect on feeling like the outsider as well. I do think that Moana, to a certain extent, does feel a little bit like an outsider, a lot. On the island, she represents this outsider archetype, or rebel even. The rebel and outsider are sort of similar, and the rebel, or the outsider, is sort of like an extension of the rebel archetype, which represents an individual that is different from the rest of society, that may even be looked down upon by society. I mean, they don't really look down upon Moana like that, but she does feel like an outsider, if that makes sense. Like, her opinions, her beliefs, what she wants to do is far-fetched. It's crazy. I mean, what is she talking about? And so, she says that in that song, everybody on this island seems so happy on this island. Everything is by design. I know everybody on this island has a role on this island, so maybe I can roll with mine. I can lead with pride, I can make us strong. I'll be satisfied if I play along. But the voice inside sings a different song. What is wrong with me? She says, see the light as it shines on the sea. It's blinding. But no one knows how deep it goes. And it seems like it's calling out to me, so come find me. And let me know. What's beyond that line? Will I cross that line? See the line where the sea... Okay, this is that song, How Far I'll Go, and it's sung by the main actress, as well as Alessia Cara. Is that her name? What an amazing song. It's one of my favorite songs ever. And Moana, she struggles with that, right? With feeling like everybody knows their role on the island, and she feels like she's not fitting in. And Maui relates to that, because Maui also felt like the outsider. He was abandoned when he was a baby. He was then made a demigod by the gods, right? And he feels like he needs to do whatever it takes to make the humans happy, to accept him, to feel that he is valuable to them. And so that's why he took the heart of Te Fiti. So Moana, she and Maui, they connect about that. And I think that is so key, for her overcoming her fears, of her recognizing in herself that she is enough. She tells Maui that he is, it's not the gods that make him Maui, it's him who makes him Maui. And I think that's important because, even in Moana's case, it's not that she is the chief's daughter that makes her the chief. It's not that she is going to be called the leader that makes her the leader, but it's her courage, it's her qualities, it's who she is that makes her who she is. And and so she can connect to Maui about that. And Maui helps her learn how to sail, right? Maui teaches her how to sail. But that journey that she has to take, that courage, that is all within. That is the inner journey of herself. That is her sailing her subconscious seas. And the seas of herself, right? And so at the end of the movie, we see that Moana, she has the heart of Te Fiti, and she goes to the Teka. She has to sail beyond Teka to go back to where the heart originally was, where Te Fiti was. But when she gets there, what happens is that she sees that there's nothing there. And so what does she see? What does she recognize? She recognizes that actually the little spiral things, that spiral that was found inside the heart, it also was in Teka, the demon. And so this actually reveals that she figured out that the goddess Te Fiti was inside Teka the whole time. And so this is sort of the most important part of the story, and what this reveals to us, this legacy, this going beyond these boundaries, this calling that she had. It was this calling of recognizing herself. The same way that she doubted herself, it was the same way the sea goddess doubted herself. The sea goddess felt like because her heart was taken that she is this demon, that she is this dark, hurt entity, right? And Moana helps her recognize, this is not who you are. I know who you are, right? And when she does that, she restores the heart, and the sea goddess Te Fiti comes out. And that is so amazing that we see that. And we see that the shadow is now lifted. The shadow archetype is now replaced and embodied by the whole goddess again. The goddess recognizing who she is, who her identity is, right? And that was the higher calling. The higher calling was recognizing your identity, going beyond limitations, and not staying stuck in your shadows, in your demons, in your Teka, or your island, not staying stranded on an island, scared to go, scared to see. Because when we look into the sea, we can see ourselves, as I say. We can see ourselves. And that is a big message of this movie. To see yourself. The C and C, it's called a homophone. Not, I know what you're thinking, but the C is a homophone because it represents two different meanings. Another type of homophone would be sail, which is S-A-L-E, like my name, Salena, as well as S-A-I-L. So C is also the same, S-E-A and S-E-E. And when we are able to see and look into our C's, our subconscious mind, we're able to understand ourselves. As Carl Jung said, until you make the subconscious conscious or the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate. And that is what Jung said. And that is what I sort of want to leave with this message today. Until you go deep into those aspects of your mind, those seas of your mind that you avoid, until you face the unknown, until you face the darkness, you will not truly know yourself and become conscious of who you are, because it is so important to face our fears. It is so important, if the legacy that we leave behind in this world, the way that Moana left this legacy, the legacy of ourselves, the legacy of our conscious mind. It is so important. And our higher calling is to go beyond the limitations of ourselves. And that is what I want to leave for today's message. So I really hope that you enjoyed this video as much as I enjoyed making it. I really, really love talking about Moana today. Honestly, I could go on all day. Let me know if you saw anything that I missed. I would love to discuss in the comments below. So please like, comment, and subscribe. And seize the day, my fellow sailors. Seize the day. And you know where I got that saying from, seize the day? Not just because of this sailor of psychology, but also because of the movie Dead Poets Society, when, what is his name? Mr. Keating, which is played by Robin Williams in Dead Poets Society. And he says, seize the day, boys. Make your lives extraordinary. And that is all about what I want to leave with this video today. Seize the day. Make your lives extraordinary. Go beyond your limitations. Do things that scare you. Scare the heck out of you. But do those things, because those things will make you grow as a person and become who you truly aspire to be and who you are meant to be in this life, and fulfill you with purpose. So, yeah, that's all I have to say. Seize the day, fellow sailors. Seize the day.